A note before we get into it. These stories are my own creative interpretations of the ancient stories from the Prose Edda, originally written by Snorri Sturluson. My interpretations are heavily influenced by the writing style of Dag Grossman, who I had the pleasure of listening to throughout my childhood, as well as Ryan Smith. Many authors have rewritten their own versions of these stories, but like Dag, I am a storyteller, and thus my stories will reflect my own creativity and way of speaking. Any deviations or shortcomings, then, are my own. In the beginning, there was nothing, neither earth nor sky, only the great, yawning void, Gunungagap. Time passed without notice, as time did not truly exist and could not be marked by any steady movement. Life hung in limbo of twilight existence, awaiting the moment to burst forth. South of Gunungagap appeared Muspelheim, the first of the 9 realms to emerge from the nothingness. Unlike Gunungagap, Muspelheim was alive, bursting with volcanoes, streaming with molten rock. In this land of fire lived a Jotun by the name of Surtur, a hulking giant made of the essence of volcanic destruction. It is he who shall come forth to destroy the World Tree, and the 9 realms it holds, with his flaming sword. North of Gunungagap appeared Niflheim. In the very center of Niflheim sprang forth the icy spring Virgelmere, from which all major waters flow, and thus Virgelmere was deemed the well of creation. Niflheim, and the northern part of Gunungagap, filled with ice from Virgelmere, as Muspelheim, and the southern part of Gunungagap, alighted with sparks and fire. As the 2 parts converged at the center of Gunungagap, the frost melted and began to drip, steadily forming the likeness of a sleeping creature, who was called Ymir, the first of the frost Jotuns. As Ymir slept, he began to sweat, and from his sweat formed the likeness of a female and a male giant. These Jotuns then mated and bore forth a son, and it is from Ymir's offspring that all frost Jotuns are created. The same water that dripped steadily to create Ymir produced another creature, an enormous cow, named Althumbla. It was by her meat and milk that Ymir was sustained. The cow, in turn, licked the moss and lichens off the salty blocks of ice that filled the northern part of Gunungagap. By the 3rd day of licking, a man appeared, fully formed, and walked free from the ice. This was Buri, the grandfather of the Aesir gods. Buri fathered a son who he called Bor, who married a Jotuness, Besla. Together, Bor and Besla had 3 sons, Vili, Ve, and Odin, the first of the Aesir. The 3 looked at the world they were born into with dismay, for all the resources of the land were held by Ymir for his own use. And thus, the 3 denounced the hoarding and poverty of their lives, and moved towards rebellion against the ancient giant, slaying him. From Ymir's sacrifice, the brothers created a new world, which they called Midgard. From Ymir's flesh, they made the land. From his blood, they made the seas. From his bones, they made the mountains. From his teeth, the rocks and boulders. And from his hair, the grasslands and forests. When all else was made on the new world, the Aesir carved the dome of Ymir's skull, entrusting 4 dwarves at the edge of the world to hold up the sky. The 3 brothers then took the last bits of Ymir's body, his brains, and spun them into clouds to occupy the space under the dome of the sky. From the sparkling embers of Muspelheim, the gods formed the sun, moon, and stars, and threw them into the sky to illuminate the night. To establish the cycles of daily light, the Aesir gave the task of riding 2 chariots across the sky to the woman Not, and her son Dag. Likewise, she gave the task of driving the chariot of the sun to the goddess Sol, and the task of driving the chariot of the moon to her brother, Mani. Many Jotuns were drowned by Ymir's blood when the Aesir broke open his body to form the seas. So to the remaining Jotuns, the Aesir gave them Utgard, Outland, the land at the furthest end of Midgard, which they named Jotunheim for them. While walking along the seashore, the gods happened across 2 logs, one of ash and one of elm. From these, the gods created man, who they called Ask, and a woman, who they called Embla. Odin gave the pair the breath of life. Vili gave them movement and intelligence, and Ve granted them their senses of sight, hearing, and speech. The brothers then gave Ask and Embala all of Midgard for them and their future descendants, mankind. Seeing all of Midgard and being pleased with their creation, the three brothers created a realm for themselves, which they called Asgard. Asgard sits high above Midgard, and is still connected to it by the Rainbow Bridge, the Bifrost, which the gods can use whenever they please. Near Asgard is the home of the Light Elves, Elfheim, as well as Vanaheim, the place for the more nature-based Vanir gods. The whole of creation is bound together by the World Tree, Yggdrasil, whose roots extend down to the depths of Niflheim, being continuously watered by the three great wells, Urdur, Mimir, and Vergelmir. This giant ash tree connects all of the 9 worlds, with its boughs stretching to the heavens and beyond. Like all trees, Yggdrasil is prone to decay and disease, but is lovingly tended to by the Norns, 3 strange goddesses who live near the well of Urdur, who dictate the whims of fate. They are called Urd, what is, Verdandi, what is becoming, and Skuld, what will be. It is they who decide and maintain the orlog of existence, the fate of everything. Each day, they mix white clay with the spring water from Urdur's well, and tend to the roots of Yggdrasil that the giant certain Needhog chews on, threatening the integrity of the World Tree with every bite. It is the Norns alone who keep reality in constant order, for if they fail to uphold their ancient task, everything as we know it would begin to dissolve into chaos.